Welcome to part 2 of episode 1 Shunaji Creates Dirty Girls. In this part, I'll be exploring how I went about creating a demo for the track and how I then developed that into what you've heard with musicians during recording studio sessions and how my project developed. I'll just go in full view. I can't do this in Ableton because there's just too much for my computer to handle, both the recording software and the production software. So I'll just show you in a few screenshots. Basically, when I start a track, I will usually develop a melody and or a chord progression, and then I'll slap a drum pattern on that, and I'll glue the two together using a bass line. So I usually come up with pretty funky bass lines, and I'm very proud of that. I think if I was a bassist, that would be a pretty juicy bassist. The drum kit was a programmed electronic drum kit. It consisted of a very simple kick, a snare, open and close hats, and maybe a percussive element. Here I have the instrumental, which is usually keys, synths, any other melodic elements that are desirable in my music at least. And then there's Duck Boy, which is essentially a term that's been coined by Stephen Reed, who is Ableton production coach and YouTuber, and it essentially just means Duck Boy, and it represents sidechain compression, a concept and practical device that took me a while to get familiar with. But essentially, I think the word is really brilliant. It helps you duck sonic elements to make space for other elements. So those are usually bass and drums. When you start a demo, all is really clear, I've got this amazing drum pattern and this bass line, but as you develop the track, everything gets kind of buried in things like synthesizers, which usually cover quite a wide range of frequencies in the EQ, and similarly pianos can be quite wide, especially if you're using some electronic pianos. Rhodes can be quite wide. So what you want to do is to preserve that space for bass and the rhythm section in general. This is pretty much how it looked initially. This is the session the arrangement view. And as you can see, I had my original program drums, which is very repetitive. And then I had a piano track. So those are the main chords that I will come up with when I'm laying chord progressions. I'll usually think of it as the main verse. And that's the first thing that I want to get, because that's kind of the loop that I create. And then I've got the hook, which is the fun part. And that's where my drums get a bit more, a bit more saucy. And then in the piano, I will have an intro and an outro, which is usually a stripped down version of the verse progression. Then here you can see this was part of the second stage, is when Maria Grapsa, who is a pianist, very talented pianist, and also part of my live band, came over and we recorded the Rhodes. We initially had recorded the Rhodes for the chord progressions in the verses and all, but then I decided to just use it for the chorus because I felt that the electronic piano, the software piano, was actually quite interesting. I use Lounge Lizard. I really like Lounge Lizard. It has a lot of bluesy and jazzy electronic pianos and whirlies and all of that, and sort of Rhodes-like sounds, so it's always quite useful. So we mix the Rhodes from Lounge Lizards with the actual Rhodes, which is cool. Then we have this brass, which is not actually a brass instrument. It's some weird software like plugin that I have, and I just like the sound of it. So it's kind of like a synth, and you can hear it throughout the track. It's panned like across channels. And then you can see this is the MIDI bass that I created. So it's bum bum ba da ba da bum ba 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 da ba da bum ba 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 da ba da ba ba ba, and then it drops ba da bum ba da ba 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 ba. And I had that, and then John Wright, who is a bassist and also part of my live band, came over and we developed that. A lot of it stayed the same, but John particularly developed the bridge part, which I had not really thought about for the bass. And he brought some really amazing, soulful, wholesome, take them to church lines there. That was really cool. Then we've got a sensor. That's a beep that I have. Because when my rap drops in the first verse, it's like, I don't give a fuck. And I thought, no, censor that. So then maybe they'll play it on BBC Radio. The vocals were a really interesting part of Dirty Girls. I think it's like my best vocal work today. I did some really amazing things, especially go and check it out. At the end of the bridge, I do